What is up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod. We're giving you your weekly recap in pop culture, music, TV, movies. Before we jump too far into it, hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod. You can find us pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts, including Spotify. So give us a follow there. And a rating and review on iTunes is always appreciated. 5 stars preferred. Dave, man, so we got lots to talk about today. We're gonna look at 2019. What are we looking forward to? We're gonna review some movies, talk about an album. We were like, we got the Golden Globes. We can probably just make that a quick one. It doesn't really matter. And then the Golden Globes were the most Golden Globes they could be last night. Can you give us a bit of a recap on what happened?
In short, we are far from the shallow now, my friend. As we've said before, the Golden Globes as an award, a tangible award people care about, does not exist. No one actually gives a shit about who wins, per se. People just are mad about how it affects the awards we do care about, namely the Oscars. The TV stuff, we're not even talking about TV stuff. They like to get ahead of the Emmys because, the way their calendar works, that's fine, whatever. They've done a lot of cool stuff on the TV side, like Robot, Maisel, etc. That's cool. But the movies, generally, they've done some weird stuff. They'll pick stuff that doesn't usually win. Not really the best predictor at all. But it's supposed to be a fun ceremony. The celebrities are a little looser. It is what it is, right? And that's kind of what I was hoping for. That's what you were hoping for. Everyone was hoping for. Fortunately, the Hollywood Foreign Press, this shadowy cabal of 83, 93 people, under 100 people, really fucking went off the deep end. And unfortunately, with the Oscar voting literally just opening up at midnight following the ceremony, it's worrisome that this could influence the voters. And that's namely that the big talking points, Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody, did so well at the Globes, winning the 2 Best Pictures as well as other awards. So that's very disappointing. And I really hope it's not a sign of things to come. Again, none of the HFPA vote on the Oscars. The Oscars is like 8,500 people, representing a much more diverse group in Hollywood. So I'm still very hopeful, and I'm not actually worried, but it is annoying that now we have this narrative that's not going to go away for 2 months. What was your take? You actually watched the ceremony. I did not watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a interesting award ceremony. They really leaned into, and rightfully so, they leaned into the women's movement. Regina King had a really powerful speech on it. Sandra Oh had some nice words on it as well. Really touching moment between her and her parents. I didn't feel like Oh and Sandberg did a great job hosting. They were fine. Their best show came at the expense of the This Is Us cast, which I thought if they could have captured that moment a little bit more throughout, it would have been a lot better. But yeah, I came away I was just laughing, man, because when you think about the Golden Globes, they have some interesting picks. Like, right, last year, James Franco won for Best Actor in a Comedy, Best Lead Actor in a Comedy. It's like, okay, he didn't end up winning, obviously, Academy Award for it, and it was pretty controversial based on some of the issues and the things James Franco is going through right now. Mahershala Ali winning, okay, we kind of thought he was the favorite for the category. That's fine. Green Book has some problems, but I didn't think it was going to win. I thought Vice was probably going to win. Then Green Book won, and I'm like, oh crap, this is probably the worst possible thing that could happen in terms of the Oscars race, because now Green Book's going to be getting a lot more press. It's going to be talked about a lot more. Could just end up sneaking in there. And then Bohemian Rhapsody wins for Best Drama, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this has a 62% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is a film that not even critics like, and it's winning Best Drama. I am upset for films like Beale Street or something like Spiderman, which I had like an outside hope could potentially get a Best Picture nomination.
Not happening.
Because now Rhapsody's going to get in there. And
First Man, bye-bye, sorry.
Yeah,
Which
First Man, a film that should be nominated. It's good enough. I mean, I don't think
Widows,
it's a great
same
film.
thing.
Yeah, Widows would be another one. So I'm upset about that. I think Rami's deserving, but man, just looking forward, A Star Is Born, Biggest Loser last night. I don't know where they're going to be in the race moving forward. I have to imagine Gaga and Cooper are going to be out there standing and trying to campaign a lot for it. But the race, which seemed so set leaving, feels a little bit more wide open, a little bit more unpredictable. The only thing that seems sure now is Cuarón's going to win for Roma for directing, and probably is still the favorite for the category for the best picture.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate thing why you can't use it as a bellwether, is because Roma was not eligible for either best picture because it's a foreign film. Really weird stipulation by the Hollywood foreign press to, have that bias against foreign films, but that's what they have. And then also Olivia Colman, who I would say is the favorite for Best Actress, was not going against, we thought her chief competition was Gaga. In fact, Glenn Close won for Best Actress in Drama. But either way, Coleman was separated from her two chief competitors. So again, we didn't really get to see that pan out.
Right.
And we just got the Writers Guild nominations today, and Green Book is nominated for a screenplay. It won the screenplay at the Globes. And I think that's just like one of the most egregious things, because it's like, that's like the worst part of the film and kind of the source of most of the problems and the things people have in it take issue with. And now Green Book's, it's 3 billboards all over again. And I know a lot of people were hoping we didn't have to deal with this, but here we are.
Yeah, and this is something we didn't necessarily talk about in our Green Book review, but it's written with the help of Tony the Lip's son, and it doesn't really take into account the any firsthand experience from Don Shirley, not even secondhand experience. Pretty much told totally from Tony the Lip's perspective as told by his son. So it's in a way whitewashing this very complicated black man's experience, and a lot of it has been refuted by Don Shirley's family. So the acting award, I can understand, like Mahershala is going to give the performance he's going to give, and I thought he was still brilliant in the role. Even Viggo Mortensen getting nominated, he's playing the role. But the screenplay is egregious because it's basically saying, oh, we don't give a shit about this. Like we're going to accept that this is all the truth, that this is really the way it went down. We're not going to take into account this other person's contradictory experience. So there's a really good article on Variety about the problems with the Green Book and a lot of the controversy. Jason Concepcion tweeted it out. I'd recommend reading that to brush up, but that would probably be my worst case scenario, is if Green Book somehow with the preferential voting comes out on top on this. But I actually think the preferential voting will save the category in general. I think Green Book will end up being like third on a lot of people's ballots, and Roma and Star Is Born still going to split the top 2. So we'll see. Going to be interesting. Can't wait to see the nominations. I think they come out in 2 weeks.
22nd. Yes, pretty soon.
So we'll be talking about that. Why don't we jump to 21 Savage?
Oh yeah,
I am
totally
greater than I was. This is his second album, follow up to 2017's Issa album. I actually was about to say last year's, but it's not last year's.
Correct.
It's kind of crazy. This dropped right before Christmas. It dropped on the 21st, actually, I believe. 21.
Hey.
Being that savage. Dave, we've talked a little bit about how he's done really well in the features. Did he deliver on his second album?
Yeah, I think so. I really liked the project, and I was it was kind of just honing in, refining the take I've had for some time now about 21, where he's come a really long way as a all-around talent since most of us became aware of him in early 2016. His delivery is a lot more varied. He really has learned to control his like breath control and his cadences, and never sounds unlike himself. But now there's more variety to what 21 Savage sounds like on any one song, and it's really been cool to see him come into that, because he was looped in to the mumble rappers and all that, but he never really was that. And if you actually listen to him, he is actually a pretty impressive storyteller in terms of talking about loss and hurt as well as how that relates to his previous life of violence and crime and whatnot. So I was quite impressed. And at the end of the day, we listened to him for the bangers, and there's a bunch of bangers on here. Chief among them, the very first song, "A Lot," featuring another great J. Cole feature to top off the year. So yeah, I was a big fan. You know, on one hand, I kind of wish he just waited till like this week or next week to release this, because I still feel like streaming helps against this, but I still feel like you kind of lose track of a new musical project at the end of the year. So I thought that was maybe a little ill-advised, but that being said, I'm still really a big fan of it, still bumping it. What'd you think?
No, yeah, I think you touched on most of the points. I think his focus on this is what's most interesting. His, you mentioned he talks a lot about the trauma, the hardships he went through, a lot of the violence he lived through. I think A Lot is a great example of how he really taps into that, but not in a way that feels like it's too deep to take away from the song. He really just talks about it very bluntly. And I think that's the thing I think is most impressive, is he's just very straight to the point. He's more interested in like the facts of things rather than like trying to like make sense of them or understand them. And it makes these heavy songs still really digestible. And I think he varies up his sound quite a bit on this, which is also a huge plus for me. I mean, A Lot is obviously my favorite, but like, was it Letter to Mom, or let me just make sure I get the name of that correctly. Letter to My Mama, near the very end, I thought was another one, very different sounding song, but a lot of meaning comes together. And ASMR also stood out to me as a really good track. I hear you laughing.
Yeah, well, that's a nice little shout out to the whispering he did on Metro Boomin's album quite recently. So I thought that was funny. Yeah, other tracks I liked. Well, it's funny. I never expected him and J. Cole to vibe on a track so well, but they did on A Lot. Similarly, I never thought him and Childish Gambino would vibe so well, but Monster is quite good as well. Kind of reminds me of Gambino on the Stone Mountain Kawhi DJ Drama project. I also liked AT&T with Young Miami from City Girls. And what was the last one I liked? I thought 1.5 was okay, for a Migos song, but him and Offset obviously released Without Warning last year, so they have that chemistry. And then lastly, I liked Good Day, but a lot to like on here, whether you want the bangers, whether you want the booming beats, or you want to actually listen for something more. He's kind of like Kodak Black in that regard. He can kind of give you a little bit of everything in this realm.
Yeah, I think there's a couple songs you can skip on this, but the rest are all really interesting to listen to. And he's shown a lot of growth. I mean, it's kind of, I guess, arbitrary to talk about, but do you think after hearing this album, you feel like his ceiling is higher of what he could be as an artist?
Well, it's funny because I feel like he's already at a really high level. Like he's just a flat out star already. He's 26. He's funny. He's a day 26. Older than me. Exactly. But he's got 9 million Instagram followers, and he does hundreds of millions of streams. Like, he's already huge. Now, can he get much bigger? I don't know what space is there for him to occupy. It's like no one can get to the top when we still have our Drakes and our Kendricks not leaving the top, right? But in terms of conquering like the Atlanta sound, he's right next to Gucci and Migos now. He's right with them. So I think the ceiling is still high. And again, he's still quite young, so I'm sure he'll stay hungry for more.
I agree. Someone that I think has to stay hungry, as he will probably be one of the people taking up the mantle for DC Comics as they move forward. Jason Momoa, our guy playing Aquaman, Arthur Curry. Man, so yeah, I caught this movie yesterday, and it was still a pretty packed theater. It's been out for a couple weeks now. It seems to be doing pretty well. The interesting thing for me was I went into this movie and I pretty quickly found myself rolling my eyes at a lot of things. It still felt very comic booky in a sense, like they're, some of the tropes. What I found most interesting was this was a movie where, they're underwater a lot, and CGI with underwater has been tough. And you had a great tweet about it, which is like, I couldn't believe that the underwater CGI would be better than the land CGI, but here we are. Thanks, Aquaman. Like, pretty crazy. I just can't stop thinking about that desert scene, Dave, and how those sand dunes look like they were straight out of Toy Story, and I was like, I feel like this is a perfect encapsulation of what DC movies, comic book movies are right now, but especially this movie it had a lot of potential and there were so many good parts to it. And I think the good outshone the bad for the most part, but still it seems like DC just can't quite get the formula right.
Yeah, it's funny. I think the CGI issues are just such an unforced error, and something that, not to compare them to Marvel, but that's just not something a mistake they would make these days.
Yeah.
And yes, this is what the fifth DCEU movie. They're again much earlier, more nascent universe. But yeah, like the very first scene, the lighthouse scene, where we get the GOAT Tamura Morrison, Jango Fett from the prequels, my guy. We get him on a clearly green screen set, and it's like that's a simple thing, but it just seems like the budget ran out for that CGI because they spent so much of it on the ocean, and it didn't take me out of the movie. I was just disappointed because I do feel like it can be distracting. I was expecting to be more distracted by the underwater CGI, but I wasn't. I thought that was very immersive and done really well. Obviously, it's completely computer generated, but it looks great. And then whether it's just vivid colors, like I think Atlantis in general just really looked awesome and was probably the best world building we've gotten in a DCEU movie, similar to how Wonder Woman established the Themyscira in the beginning. Similar idea, just these crazy out there locales, which again, the DC Comics has a lot of these. So it's good to finally get these. And we're getting away from the darker, shadowy tones that we saw in the Snyder era for the universe. Whether some people like that, but I think it's better that we're seeing a different side now. And I think, like you said, the tropes. I think probably the biggest overall problem with this movie, which again I liked. I think it's probably my favorite one in the DCU, and I thought it was just really fun. But the issue is it's really, really straightforward. Just quite predictable and just of how formulaic an origin story it is. And especially as we've seen other films, comic book films, kind of eschew origin stories or speed them up. We just saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is a great take on that. And then we have Aquaman, which does it really by the book and it's fine. It's still effective, but it's simple. And I think we could have maybe tried to do it a different way, especially because we already met Momoa's Aquaman in Justice League. Again, not a good film, but we didn't meet him, similar to how like we met Black Panther in Civil War before we saw Black Panther. And yet Aquaman solo film is still as simple as if we had never met Aquaman before. So that's my overall criticism, but I still liked it. I thought it was a really fun time. And I mean, I think that's kind of in the general take because the movie's fucking crushing it, dude. It's their biggest movie overall worldwide. 940 million. It's going to hit $1 billion, 259 here in the States. It'll be the first DCU movie to win 4 weekends here in the US. So great win for them, which they needed. And I think my overall takeaways is just that, the fun flair, sometimes just laying into the camp, I think really benefits comic book movies. And we saw it here. Sometimes the one-liners are quite cheesy. I thought some of the dialogue was just bad and dumb in this. But other times I thought it was pretty fun and, effective. My favorite shot in this film, actually probably one of the better shots we've seen in comic book films, is that dive Arthur and Mira do with that flare into the trench. And it's like a wide out shot and all the creatures of the deep or whatever are chasing them. That looked fucking beautiful, man. And frankly, it almost looked one like the rest of the film. But that was really cool. And that really showed, shows the kind of potential you can do when you try and get away from the traditional trappings of the genre. So overall I liked it. I thought it was a good time.
Yeah, and I think that Aquaman really is helped by this basically being a soft reboot of the DC movies in a way. It's pretty widely known Ben Affleck's probably not going to come back as Batman. It's like pretty sure, and Cavill doesn't seem to be coming back as Superman. So moving forward, Momoa and Gal Gadot are the two people that they're going to build this off of, and probably Ezra Miller as well. Yeah. So they got three very charismatic and well liked stars there, which is great. And I agree. The dialogue is, I think, what did it most for me. I found myself rolling my eyes a lot. Two lines stand out for me in particular. Just want to highlight these. When Mara shows off her ship, he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna get in that. That's gonna make me smell like I got a swamp butt." And I was like, "You really like you're this badass dude who like wants to like fight bikers in bars and like leaves people to die, and you can't say swamp ass, like." Man, and then he swears like 10 minutes later. I was like, what? Do they get like only a certain number of swears? Maybe, I don't know. It was very
PG-13 they do, yeah.
Yeah, probably. But then the other part was after the huge battle at the end. I guess this is kind of a late spoiler, but when he's anointed king of Atlantis, the rightful king, she goes, "Oh, today ended in bloodshed, but don't worry, this should end in joy because he's here now." And it's like, oh, cool, our families all just got murdered, but no worries, the king's back. Like, I was like, damn, that seems like a real just like miss.
Well, it's funny because no major character dies in this movie.
No.
Cole Kidman didn't actually die. Black Manta doesn't actually die if you watch the post-credit scene. Orm didn't die. Remember my dad's comment, who liked it a lot. He was just like, man, he became like a big bitch at the end as soon as he saw mommy.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a, I don't know, kind of a weird turn. But I thought that was an interesting choice because I thought Black Manta did not work at all. No. And that was my fear when I saw the first trailer. I was like, he's clearly an ancillary villain to Orm. And do we need him? No, we didn't need him. And the movie would have been tighter and shorter runtime, but I think the pacing would have been better if he was not present at all. And when we do get him, it's really cookie cutter motivation wise. Really, I thought the performance was pretty one note and over the top and just disappointing. And again, not needed. Like why? It just feels like we've seen these problems in lots of superhero movies. Too many villains, and this is only two. And Dolph Lundgren, he's barely there. He doesn't really count. But like, you just didn't need him. And I guess saving him for the sequel, which we're getting with all this money it's made, I guess there's potential for redemption. But I thought he really detracted and didn't really add anything.
Yeah, and especially like the first scene you see him in on the sub, when his dad has the thing on him and he's screaming for Aquaman to help him. That was like cringeworthy how bad that was overacted. I don't know, I agree. The whole Manta thing didn't really work for me, Black Manta. But overall, I think that there's a lot to like about this movie. Just one last criticism is I thought the score didn't really fit for the tone. I think like the electric guitars were fine, but there were moments I was like, man, this music just doesn't really seem to fit with the tone of the movie for me. But that's a small one. I usually shout out when the music's really good in a movie, so I also wanted to be fair and be critical. Right. But yeah, Momoa he's a star, and like he's bankable for them moving forward. He just seems so likable and charismatic. And I thought he actually played the character arc really well because he starts off as like this cocky, doesn't give a fuck kind of guy, and then the more he kind of gets into it, the more he's faced with real issues. You really saw him kind of pull within himself more, and I thought him and Amber Heard together had pretty good chemistry. I thought she was really good in the film, and also Patrick Wilson's just fucking awesome, man.
For sure.
Love him.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I thought Mira, again, very straightforward arc for her, very pretty traditional, tropey, etc. And she also has a really cringy costume. But what she was given, I thought she did well. And yeah, Patrick Wilson ate that shit up. I thought he was really good. The only funny note I had is he's just like, he just kind of knows Volko. He knows Willem Dafoe betrayed him. Just like that. I just decided that I know that you're actually helping Aquaman this whole time. That's fine. I don't tend to get hammered down on logic with these movies. It's okay. Shout out Julie Andrews voicing the Kraken thing. Did not see that coming, especially considering it's coming out when Mary Poppins Returns comes out. Hilarious.
Ridiculous.
But honestly, that final battle, I thought really lived up to it. A lot of times the CGI third act fight can be really garish, but it wasn't this. Partially because it looked great, but I thought it just was so bonkers that it worked. But there was that cool shot where we track from each creature that's present like throughout. I thought that was a really cool idea. And yeah, this is a nice win for DC. Just next time, no Pitbull covers. That's my only other note.
Yeah, that was tough. But overall, like you said, a win for DC. Why don't we move on to Barry Jenkins get another W as well for If Beale Street Could Talk. We started with the Golden Globes. We mentioned how Bohemian Rhapsody won for Best Drama. It was up against Beale Street, and Regina King took home Best Supporting Actress. This was a much more deserving movie to win Best Drama, in my opinion. Stephen James, Kiki Lane, Regina King, Brian Tyree Henry, and Diego Luna just playing like bit roles. Like, there's a lot to like about this movie.
Even Ed Skrein as the racist cop.
So good.
Great cast everywhere.
It's amazing cast. Barry Jenkins, is he a top 5 filmmaker, top 10 filmmaker? I mentioned in the best of 2018 pod for the movies that I feel like there's like 10 to 15 like real masters working right now. Like kind of got the old guard, the new guard, and in the middle, and he's got to be in that new guard.
Yeah, it's funny because he's a little bit older than Chazelle and some of the other guys we've talked about as the new people. But yeah, definitely, because he, despite only having 3 films, I haven't seen Medicine for Melancholy, but I've heard it looks similar to Moonlight and Beale Street. He has this incredibly unique visual style in terms of the way he shoots his films. Mm-hmm. And to have that, big of a directorial identity with only a few films
signature
is impressive. And yes, like he's a little older because he had trouble getting his films made. It's not like he's like a newbie or anything. Let's see, he's 39. So, and I think Chazelle's like 30, 31 or something.
Yeah.
So, despite, only having a few films under his belt officially, he clearly is really experienced. And yeah, I think that flair really adds to this film, because from the get-go, you just see that his close-ups are fucking great. And that's the way he does these films. And I thought the Brian Tyree Henry scene, which has widely been lauded as the best scene in the film, it's Henry's only scene in the movie as well. That is an interesting choice he makes. He only uses one camera there. He used 2 cameras the rest of the movie. But by using one camera and panning from face to face through the conversation at the table, he really just kind of hammers home the point of the scene. I think that scene really kind of, for any doubters of the meaning of the plot, I think that kind of, hammers it home for everyone. And that was my favorite scene, obviously. But even though we just take away like his style, I think the movie is told in a really cool way, because I haven't read the James Baldwin story from 74, but so I can't really speak to how much it's similar to that, but it really focuses on like love and family and like acceptance more so than the actual like violence and the racism. Like we never see any of the violence that Fonny experiences in jail. We just kind of see signs of it. We see how his character changes. Mm-hmm. And we kind of see how Tish's attitude changes as she's going through everything, right? And I think it's done in a tactful yet subtle way that I think really benefits the storytelling.
Yeah, to add on to that, you don't even see, what the alleged rape that or anything related to it really. You just kind of see the after effects. And I think the thing I like most about this film is it's such a human story, and I think that's what Jenkins does so well, and that's why his close-ups are so effective, and the way he's able to bring certain emotions out of you and out of his actors, using these close-ups and using the color palette. I mean, it's an incredibly sharp-looking film, a lot of bright, vibrant colors, a lot of really sharp patterns on the characters, on their clothing, and just he was talking about how like when you first see Brian Tyree Henry, he actually filmed that in New York City, I believe in the Bronx. And if you like panned over like 5 feet, you'd see a Whole Foods right there. But he's able to just find these sections, these like real parts of wherever he wants to do these things that really bring his movies to life. And I thought the score by Nicholas Bertel was just phenomenal, and it adds so much to the film. And you mentioned his camera work and how he kind of goes back and forth, but he does it really slowly, and it's not always the camera isn't always on the person talking. And I think that really creates an air of like being a part of a conversation and not just listening into what someone's saying, and that's a huge difference. And I found myself during that Brian Tyree Henry scene almost like feeling like I was actually sitting there at the table with them, because it's just so, it really just reels you in. Brian Tyree Henry delivers that monologue in such a haunting way.
Yep.
And the way that the score changes from being pretty hopeful to like almost like a horror film score during it is just masterful. It's up there with me with a couple of other scenes throughout the year, like Allie, like the first time Allie comes on stage with Jackson Maine. Probably the Spider-Verse when he takes the leap of faith. That's a pretty awesome scene. A couple other ones that come to mind, but it's one of the scenes of the year for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny because the movie's it's ultimately really melodramatic, right? Like it's but it's done such a, I think, a loving touch for the subject matter of the story that it works so well. And even I saw some comments about this before I saw the movie, but I know Dave Franco's appearance in the film and that subsequent scene was perhaps seen as a weak point. Maybe it was unnecessary. I didn't mind it. I thought, if anything, I wish he would have maybe changed his delivery a little bit. He just sounded so much like comedic Dave Franco that it was a little distracting. I was expecting him to make like a joke or something, because it's the same normal nasal cadence. Cadence that we know from him. I was watching Neighbors 3 or something. Other than that, I thought the scene itself was effective. Yeah, man, I expect this to get nominated for Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay. Regina King should get nominated for Best Supporting Actress. I think those are all locks. And I'm fairly certain Barry should get nominated for Best Director as well. I'll be very fucking mad if Peter Farrelly from Green Book takes his spot. Not that he should be the last guy cut or anything, but I expect those all to go. Shout out Stephen James, great year. We mentioned that a few weeks ago. But Overlord, Homecoming, Beale Street, great year for him. And yeah, you mentioned the score, Nicholas Bertel. I think it's probably the best score of the year. It's this one. Maybe Justin Hurwitz for First Man. There's only a few at this top tier, and he's there. And lastly, I thought the saturated colors of the film really affected the story in terms of, like I said, like a warm feeling, because we've seen lots of movies set in 1970s New York and the 70s in general. They usually don't pop like this. They don't look like this. They look darker and dirtier, and we definitely know what the city looks like. But by saturating everything and making it more colorful, even like the scene where they have sex and like Tish's, like their skin's like glowing, like there's from the lights. There's so many cool touches with how they shot this. So shout out the director of photography for that. But yeah, I think this is a movie that you can watch it, and there's so many different things to appreciate, and we've mentioned a lot of them, that it's tough for me to really understand walking away from this and not, appreciating it, because there's so much going on.
Yeah, Barry Jenkins, I feel like every time he makes a movie, it's probably going to be in the Best Picture discussion, just because he picks really good stories. He picks human stories, which are usually big for award season, and he just shoots them in such an amazing way and gets so much out of his actors. He's really, really just a wonderful director, and can't speak highly enough about this movie. I can't imagine it's making a lot of money. I actually forgot to look that up, but
not even 10 million yet.
Yeah, but hopefully people will see it when it gets to streaming services. I think that's probably going to do it for our reviews for this week. Now let's talk about some of the things we're looking forward to most in 2019. To kind of start off, I'm looking forward to live streaming some of the Coachella sets that come out, because they dropped their lineup this past Wednesday, and it's pretty fire, dude. I've seen some people kind of panning it, but I think compared to a couple of the past years, it seems like one of the stronger lineups I can remember, especially when you see something like Firefly or even Governor's Ball today, which seem to be missing there. It really pulled through, especially when Justin Timberlake and people said that they pulled out at the last second from headlining. I think that this means that there's going to be a big year in music moving forward, and I'm wondering, what albums are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I think the obvious sign, Coachella, Saturday headliner, Tame Impala.
Yeah,
their new album from them, that's going to be exciting to a lot of people. They're a big act. They still stream a ton right now, so like that'll be huge when that happens. But if you look at all the other Coachella headliners, most of these people already released music this year, or probably want to see. I guess Solange also on Saturday. I think there's been talk of her having an album ready, so that'll
like
make
3
sense.
years now.
Yeah. And then Josh Gambino, you know, we talked about this at the beginning of last year, and I wasn't expecting one in 2018. And this kind of changes my mind for this year, just because we remember he signed that new record deal at the beginning of last year, and he mentioned retiring the Josh Gambino name. Again, if he still goes through that, who knows? And he just came off a tour, but that was a really successful tour. I saw Stop was great, but he didn't have any new music there besides This Is America, which was a one-off song, and Feels Like Summer got nominated for
Yeah.
a Grammy, again, one-off song. So, maybe he's hungry and ready for that because I don't think he's making Atlanta this year. So that wouldn't surprise me. But then, I mean, were there any other festival acts that like you saw as like signs of new music? Because like Governor's Ball you mentioned, I mean, there was no brand new people for that one. I mean, we've been thinking Vampire Weekend would have dropped last year. They're not at any of these early festivals, right?
Yeah, I think they'll probably drop sometime in probably right around like late April, May. I'm guessing Tame was supposed to come out in the summer, but with them playing Coachella, I have to imagine they want to play some new music there. Probably going to drop a little bit earlier than thinking. I mean, the obvious ones on here that stand out: Rogers, Billie Eilish. Probably going to be dropping some new music, or that'd be her first album, I think.
She has
I
one
can't
project from last
recall.
year. I'm not sure if it's an album, but I mean, she's what, 16, 17, but she does crazy streams, and you started to hear her in like Apple commercials and stuff. Yeah, that album's coming soon.
Zed probably is going to be dropping something new, but I'm not super jazzed for that.
Okay.
Although, yeah, in terms of new music, I think we haven't seen a lot of people who are expected to drop albums this year on a lot of the festival lineups. Like Chance the Rapper is somebody that I think we're all expecting to drop an album this year. Cardi B promised an album this year. I guess Kate Tronado would be somebody who's doing the festival circuit, which I'm looking forward to his album.
Disclosure. They teased some new songs at the end of last year. They mentioned more is coming, so I'm really hoping they come through. It's been a few years. That would be awesome. We're supposed to get a James Blake album perhaps as soon as this month. Again, his last album was 2016. That makes sense to me. That's cool. I like some James Blake songs, so I'll be down to hear some more. We know Hosier's releasing one in March, and that's cool. We like that EP he dropped in the fall. It's been a while for him overall.
What about SZA? Do you expect her to drop new music? There was a rumor right around Christmas time that she was about to.
Yeah, I mean, Control was what, early 2017, so she could easily do 2 years. That I don't know, because the way TDE drops their music, it's very, very planned out. Everyone takes their turn, right? And by all accounts, Schoolboy Q was supposed to have a fall album, but then when Mac Miller passed, they waited Q on the wait, right? So I think Q is the next one to drop, and I'm excited as hell for that. Blank Face was 2016, so it's been a while. But then we also haven't gotten Absol in a while. He was the end of 2015. With that Will? Was that long ago? Yeah. So I think, on the other hand, SZA's really bust out in 2017, so it would make sense to keep that going. Focus on your two big hitters with Kendrick, obviously. But yeah, I think they're going to default to at least Q first. But it wouldn't surprise me if she is the last one of the other ones. But yeah,
especially because she is headlining the third day of Governor's Ball, so I have to imagine she's going to be dropping something at some point before then, or maybe like right after then. Louis the Child also would be an interesting name to look out for. I feel like they're poised. I mean, they're pretty big already, but I think they're poised to make that next level jump in the house EDM genre. I don't know. I'm actually really excited for the Rockin' Tours. Jack White released an album that we did not like very much last year, but he released I believe it was 2 songs at the end of 2018 with the Rockin' Tours, and he hasn't released music from them in a decade. And the song sounded pretty good, and the Rockin' Tours aren't a band I've been I listen to frequently, but they still rock. And Jack White, I think from his very electronic sounding, very unorthodox album to go back to something a little bit more rooted in an older sound would be a good move for him. So I'm excited for that. And also Curtis Harding is I don't think we've ever reviewed anything from him on here, but he's an artist I like a lot. Like a rock, an old school like rock sound. similar to like I don't want to say Hendrix, but he infuses a lot more like jazz into it, and very interesting artist. So I'm hoping he drops something this year. It's been 2 years since his last album. I think
Yeah,
that'll probably do it for music. Any others?
it's been a long time since Justin Bieber dropped anything. Fall 2015. Could this be the year? Just got
It's a
married,
great call.
technically. So wouldn't surprise me.
Alabama Shakes would be great too.
On the other side of that coin, Selena Gomez also hasn't released an album in a while, and she's the most followed person on Instagram. Like, she's fucking gigantic. It's been a while. You know, she had some personal issues, health issues and stuff. So that wouldn't surprise me. Similar to Cardi B, Ariana Grande is probably dropping another project this year. Thank You Next was a #1 hit. She released other songs on top of that. Not all of them popped as much. So that sounds like it's actually kind of close, which is kind of weird. I feel like she should keep waiting. But then on the rap side, 2 Chainz, rapper Go to the League is supposed to be coming out for a while. So I'm excited for that if he does in fact drop that. And lastly, Lil Pump, Harvard Dropout, supposed to come out a few months ago. But he just dropped that new Butterfly Doors track, and I love that song so much. And I'm really excited because I feel like he's really getting down to like knows what he's good at, and he's gonna start to keep doing that. So I'm excited for that. Unironically, but yeah, we're gonna get some surprises. Like, do you think Drake takes off this year? He didn't take off the past 3.
Do you think Kanye drops another album?
Yeah, apparently he's in Miami. Yeah, apparently he's in Miami right now with like a bunch of names, young and old. So I do think he dropped something. It's probably not called Yandi, which I like as a name, but you know, I also like So Help Me God. He didn't keep that one either. Yeah, I do think he dropped something, probably the May time. So
yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting year. Music is nonstop. Like, there's just always something to be talking about with it. So we'll be reviewing all of that and more, most likely. Let me jump to TV. So TV, I think, is interesting because there's one show that I think everybody's like, holy shit, this is like the event of the year. And we all know it's Game of Thrones season 8. It's I mean, they dropped a 3-second clip last night of the Golden Globes where Danny and John meet Sansa, and Sansa says, "Winterfell is yours, my grace." And people are like dissecting the shit out of that 3-second clip. It's going to be incredible. Like, and I have no doubt it'll be at top of everybody's best of, even if the ending isn't totally satisfying. But what else are you most excited for this year, Dave?
Yeah, so I think there's some obvious choices of shows that we just talked about for 2018. Killing Eve back in April. Barry's coming back. Succession's coming back. You mentioned Thrones. Stranger Things coming back on July 4th. Nice layoff for them. We're expecting Mindhunter to come back this year. Fleabag's supposed to come back this year. So I'm excited for all of that. In terms of news shows, again, we don't really have dates on any of these, but there's that FX show with Sam Rockwell and Michelle Williams, Foss Verdon, I think it's called. Looks pretty cool.
Produced by Lin-Manuel Miranda, dude.
Yeah. So that'll be a big push. We like FX. John Landgraf knows what he's doing there. Other stuff though, like we don't have dates for anything. So a lot of these are like theoretical. You know, they're making a second season, but whether it actually happens this year or not. The Crown season 3 will be huge. Olivia Colman on here right now. So that I'm sure that'll help her. We're supposed to get that Witcher Netflix show with Henry Cavill. I'm not sure if that makes this year, but they already have been filming it. So that would actually be pretty exciting for the video game heads. Watchmen is my most anticipated show of the year, apart from Thrones. Also HBO, Damon Lindelof. It's not an adaptation. It's just existing in the world. And Jeremy Irons is playing Ozymandias as an older man. And I'm just fucking stoked. They showed brief, like 5 seconds in that same teaser you mentioned for the Globes. There's a bunch of different scenes there. We have no idea what any fuck they mean. But I'm so excited because, again, this is Lindelof's return since Leftovers. It's been a little while, and it's also fucking Watchmen. The most seminal thing in comics. So that's exciting.
Yeah, you get Lindelof back, and he's making like new Watchmen shit. It's like, okay, like just be there. I'll watch that. Something else on the HBO preview, Veep, the final season, and also True Detective season 3. It's gonna be a huge year for HBO, which is like the least surprising thing I could possibly say.
Yeah. There's other ones too. Big Little Lies season 2. And
Yep.
I think in the fall, because they've been shooting it, I think they'll make it. His Dark Materials co-production with BBC, aka the Golden Compass. They shut out a lot of money for that IP. We talked about the fantasy IP bubble a few months ago, so check that out on YouTube. But that's going to have big production values and might be the first post-Thrones fantasy show to try and occupy that bubble in terms of coming out soon. So that'll definitely have a lot of eyes on it.
But I gotta say, Watchmen's up there for me, but probably my second most anticipated TV season of this year is True Detective, or sorry, not True Detective, Mr. Robot season 4.
Oh yeah.
The finale of Mr. Robot, Sam Esmail, Rami Malek. It's gonna be awesome. I have no doubt that they'll land the ship, and I think it's gonna be phenomenal. Just two others I want to shout out that could steal a lot of attention. Taika Waititi is readapting his short film, What We Do in the Shadows. That him and Jermaine Clement, what they dropped in 2014, I believe. That could be really interesting. And also, Ryan Murphy is probably going to be dropping some shows on Netflix this year. And there's one called The Politician, which stars Ben Platt from Pitch Perfect fame and Dear Evan Hansen fame. Jessica Lange's also in it, Dylan McDermott, January Jones, Zoe Deutsch. It sounds like it's going to be pretty good, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and now that I keep looking, there's a few others I'm looking forward to. Not sure if we're getting this for sure, but it's soon. The New Pope, the sequel show with Jude Law adding John Malkovich. We loved The Young Pope when that came out 2 years ago, so that'll be exciting. Devs, the FX Alex Garland show with Sonia Mizuno from Maniac, as well as Nick Offerman. We like Alex Garland. He does crazy shit, so I'm sure him doing peak TV on FX is going to be bonkers. Yep. Also, Black Mirror Season 5, probably be a few months down the road, given Bandersnatch just came out, but that's supposed to be coming. And then lastly, can't forget just straight up greatness, Better Call Saul coming back.
Yeah, Saul always gets forgotten, and it's like it's probably the biggest crime we do this year.
Forgot one more. Catch 22 on Hulu with George Clooney, Kyle Chandler, and Hugh Laurie. George Clooney back for the first time since ER. Exciting.
On TV. Yeah, and Jennifer Aniston's thing should be dropping on Apple this year, I believe.
Don't know. I don't know about that. I don't think they've started producing any of their shows yet, so okay. I don't know if that's happening. Maybe and also we should get something from the Disney Plus streaming service at the end of the year. You know, whether it's The Mandalorian or something else, we'll get something on that.
Mandalorian. I can't imagine they dropped that at the same time they're dropping Star Wars Episode 9, which is probably that and Avengers Endgame are the two most anticipated movies of the year. It's gonna be a hell of a year in movies, I think, because for me there's three like main ones that I'm looking forward to. Two of them are earlier in the year, and then Star Wars at the end of the year. But there's just a ton of really quality and interesting films already on the docket, let alone the art house picks that will no doubtly be standing over by the end. But I think the three for me are Star Wars Episode 9, Avengers Endgame, and Us. Jordan Peele's trailer. That trailer is just, it's got me. Like I'll be there opening night. Can't wait to see it. But what else are you looking forward to, Dave?
Yeah, I'm with you on those. On the blockbuster front, I'm also stoked for Godzilla King of the Monsters. That trailer really sold me. They've did effects on this movie for like a year and a half, and it shows. Looks great. So I'm excited for that. I really like the first one from Gareth Edwards. Other blockbusters, I'm very curious to see X-Men Dark Phoenix and the New Mutants do. These could be our last films in the Fox X-Men universe. So
they look bad.
Very
bad.
Very interested in those, I'll say that. Spiderman Far From Home, that's our first Marvel movie post Avengers Endgame. Jake Gyllenhaal, the villain. That sounds cool. Disney's keeping the remake game going. We've seen the Dumbo trailer. That looks fine. I don't think Colin Farrell really looks like an elephant, but we'll see how that goes. But I'm more looking forward to, like most people, to the Lion King remake, and not for the reason you think. I'm just interested in Lion King because this is probably the last chance a movie has to beat The Force Awakens for the highest grossing film in the US. Force Awakens made like 936 million in the US alone. Second place is Black Panther at like 700. It's that big a gap. Infinity War was less. I don't think Endgame can even get close. I think Lion King, something that is so international, so worldwide, and so beloved, is our last chance to really see if that record can ever be topped.
Right.
So I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because when you think about it, like Lion King, you don't need to have seen anything previously other than probably the Lion King, which everybody's seen, to enjoy this film. Whereas like Endgame, you have some catching up to do at this point, even if it's just watching the last one. That's definitely a good one. The voice cast for Lion King is absurd, like just nuts. Once upon a time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino's next project, Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. Dude, we just got like shots from the set, just pictures, and I'm like, yo, I can't wait to see this. It looks phenomenal. I have no idea. I just saw pictures. I'm like, I'm in. Let's go. Let's see what else. Under the Silver Lake, which it was it sounds really interesting to me. Andrew Garfield getting to investigate disappearance of what's her name, Riley Keough.
Yeah, supposed to come out last month, and they pushed it way out, which I think was a smart idea.
Yeah, take all the time you need, just make it good. And John Wick 3, that and Men in Black International, I'm hoping are both really good. Can't forget Joaquin Phoenix and the Joker. Everybody's saying his performance on that was excellent. Someone just make sure he's going to be okay afterwards. That's all I care about. Joaquin Phoenix. Anything else?
Yeah, similar to the industry angle. I'm very curious to see how Rocket Man, the Taron Egerton Elton John film, does, because that's releasing end of May, or is it? Yeah, end of May.
Yep.
And that's a choice to make that a summer film. But I think all those producers and Egerton and all them, they saw what happened with Bohemian Rhapsody. That shit made over $700 million worldwide. People love Queen. Ellen John is not Queen, but Ellen John is still huge. So I think if they push this movie and they follow the beats Bohemian Rhapsody did, we could have another big hit. And I'd be happy for Taron Egerton in that regard.
The interesting part for that is going to be he's actually singing.
Yes.
He's singing the song. So that could either be really good or really bad.
Yeah, I agree. And it sounded good in the trailer. Granted, that's a small moment. But yeah, I think that's the key there. Also, the Men in Black International trailer looked fucking great. Tessa Thompson, and Chris Hemsworth again, Perrin from Ragnarok. Fuck me up with that. Hell yeah. On the non-blockbuster front, Ad Astra, James Gray's Lost City of Z follow-up. It's a space film with Brad Pitt. Yes, in. Also, The King, the Timothée Chalamet film about Henry VIII, I want to say. I'm not sure. I forget, but that sounds right. Yeah, cool. Ford versus Ferrari looks good. Then there's some other ones that don't have dates yet, like The French Dispatch, the Wes Anderson film that has Saoirse Ronan and like hella other great actors. Excited for that. The Irishman on Netflix will be coming sometime this year. We've talked about that before. Claire Denis.
Go ahead.
Claire Denis' movie High Life, the Robert Pattinson space film, which was already shown this past year. We're supposed to be getting that at some point because A24 picked it up. That's really cool. She's a French director that's not really well known over here, so I'm excited for that. And of course, Pattinson's been killing it, so I'm sure that'll be awesome. And then, I got a bunch of other ones, but lastly, Little Women, the remake, Greta Gerwig with Florence Pugh, Emma Watson, Saoirse Ronan, Meryl Streep. I mean, come on, dog.
A little movie TV crossover. Deadwood supposedly is supposed to be dropping a movie, which again could go really, really well, or people are going to be wondering why they ever wanted it. Just a real funny moment last night. I'm hoping I'm remembering this right. I didn't write it down, but Saoirse Ronan, when she announced her category and Christian Bale won, going from Saoirse Ronan to Christian Bale's blimey motherfucking Welsh accent. It was like the best funny. 10-minute span. Because did you see Bale's acceptance speech?
Yes, I did. Shout out Satan.
Shout out Satan. Fire, dude. Maybe he'll do Mitch McConnell next. Who knows? We'll see. But there's a lot to look forward to in 2019. a lot in all three categories. But let's hope it starts off with the Oscars getting things right. Unlike the Golden Globes, which are terrible.
Yep.
Don't shout out the Hollywood Foreign Press anymore. No more. They're done. What do we got next week, Dave? What are we talking about?
Yeah, that's funny because it's still early. Would have been a great time for 21 to drop. Just saying. Musically, there's nothing of note. I know Comethazine's dropping Bosky too. I'm gonna listen to that. He's the most stereotypical of SoundCloud rappers. So you kind of know what to expect. So I'll see if that changes. But True Detective season 3 dropping their first 2 episodes on Sunday. So we'll talk about that premiere. That's probably the biggest thing. But yeah, I mean, there's not a big movie till the following weekend with Glass. So we'll probably do some more forecasting stuff or look back at some stuff we missed. But there's always stuff to talk about. Things will come up.
Yeah, there's some good streaming movies we've been able to see that it might be a good week to catch up on. And I'm guessing we'll find an album or two to talk about. So stay plugged in. Subscribe everywhere, including YouTube, SoundCloud.com/NowstalgiaPod. Give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, and give us a follow on Spotify as well. Until next week, peace out.